Welcome agents, some huge news to come out of today's state of the game. Huge changes to loot, to gear, to recal, to crafting. It looks really good and I'm very excited. Today I just want to break it all down for you in this video. If you enjoy this one, please drop a like on it, subscribe to Dedicated Division 2 content. Let's get right to it. Alright agents, so instead of just scripting this one, which would take me hours, I'm just simply going to run through all the notes that I've noted down here, and there's quite a lot, so I'll try my best to go through it in as much detail as possible. So let's just start it off with Hamish Bode and game designer Nikki Cuppins was on today's State of the Game. There's actually a new State of the Game intro. It's pretty cool, actually. And to start off with, they talked about priority alerts. Now these are kind of like the priority stuff that's not, I mean, they say it's the most important stuff, but obviously the most important stuff to us is loot and all that stuff. This is mainly like fixes and all that sort of stuff. So they confirm that there are still audio issues being fixed for the game. That is ongoing. The collectible and classified assignments should be fixed. Now I know from my side of things that's not been fixed, so they did say there are still some issues with that, but the majority of that stuff has been fixed as well. Now they did go on to talk about the Shepherd system. There are changes coming, but that's not something they were going to discuss in today's State of the Game, so more on that I assume in the future. Now moving on, they confirmed that there will be an incoming PTS. They don't have a date yet, but it's going to be very soon. I imagine it's probably going to be at the start of next week. Obviously, if you want to know about that stuff, then just make sure you got your notifications turned on. I will cover it on here. If not, then you can head on over to Twitter to @TheDivisionGame and they'll have it covered on there. They did confirm that with the PTS, they will not be including any narrative content, which is great news. That was my biggest issue with the last PTS, was that there was narrative content on there, which meant that anyone who had a year one pass essentially didn't get, you know, the early content. It was the people that managed to play the PTS essentially. And they also confirmed that the PTS will be multi-phase as well. I assume that's just like the last one. They went on to confirm that TU6 will be going live next month, which is slightly disappointing for me because I'm going to be away next month from October 10th all the way up until about October 23rd, so I may actually miss this update. I hope not, but it will be coming out next month. They haven't confirmed a date yet. Now moving on, they talked about loot balancing, recal and crafting, and this was why Nicky was essentially there. He's a senior game designer and he kind of works on all of this stuff. He was kind of the person that told us what's happening. Obviously it's the game designers that went on to actually talk about this sort of stuff, but let's talk about this. So I'm getting way ahead of myself. So named weapons. They are going to be revamping named weapons, i.e., you know, you got the shield splinterer, and I believe you got Emmeline Shaw as well. Emmeline Shaw's chatterbox, I believe that's what it is. Those are the two ones that are kind of the named weapons in the game right now. They're going to be doing way more of them, and they're going to be making them a lot more interesting to acquire. If I look back through my notes here, because they did kind of skip around here a lot, they did confirm that they're going to be having around 35 new named items in the game. They're going to be having named gear as well. There's going to be some visual differences with this named gear as well. And they did talk about how you're going to get this named stuff, because obviously I know a lot of the time people want to know, you know, is this stuff going to be good? Is it going to be worth getting? And how are we going to get it? So what they're going to be doing is they're working on some ways of actually making these unique rewards. They didn't confirm exactly how they're going to do it at the moment, but they are making it so that they're unique. They also confirmed that there will be a visual difference when this stuff actually drops on the floor, and they're going to be adding these as kind of like random rare drops, incentives for playing sort of hard content and that sort of stuff, and they are actually going to be better than normal gear. And the way they stated that this is going to be better is basically you're going to get perfect versions of high-end talents that are already in the game. And the example they gave was, you had a talent, say for example you take a talent like that gives you 10% weapon damage, then this with the named gear, this talent might give you 15%, you know, something like that. So you say you got damage to elites, which is 15%, or something, it may have 20% with a named piece of gear instead, and that's how they're going to make them slightly better than your high-end stuff, and make them something that you want to kind of get. If you want to get that extra bit of damage or that extra bit of healing or whatever it might be, then this is what this gear is going to offer. I personally think that's a really good change to them. They did confirm that you won't be able to roll away the named talents as well. So, you know, again, that makes sense. But all the other stuff on them, all the other attributes, they're not going to be fixed rolls. So they're not like exotics. That stuff can just roll as normal. So that's it for named weapons. Interesting. I'm looking forward to that, I've got to say. Now, they went on to confirm the biggest change personally for Nikki, which is a new loot feature, and I'm going to get onto that because again, we're chopping and changing between what I've written down here. But let's just move on quickly to brand sets. Okay, so big news for brand sets. All brands are going to be available in every slot, aside from 511, and that's because, and they said the real reason for that is because in the real world, 511 is a real brand, and it's not on every piece of gear, so they're not going to be doing it for 511, but for everything else, it will be. So yeah, good news. That's actually one of the changes I wanted to hear, because that was one of the main reasons why people didn't like the loot, was that you couldn't get certain pieces of brands on certain pieces of slots. So that's going to be changed as well. With gear sets, a huge change is that you're only going to need 4 items of a gear set to unlock all of the bonuses, so you won't need 6 anymore, meaning you could have 4-piece gear set and then you could throw on an exotic and then maybe a named item is on there as well, because you will have 2 further slots, which doesn't actually increase the power of gear sets. It just means that they're going to be more viable in builds because you can put stuff on top of them, because you're going to be getting those 6-piece bonuses out of 4 pieces of gear. Now, they did confirm that the chest and the backpack for gear sets are going to be made more powerful, because they're going to be adding a high-end talent to these as well. As you probably know, with gear sets, they don't come with talents, but for this chest and backpack, you're going to be able to get high-end talents on these particular gear sets as well. They want to talk about raid gear sets being widely available, so i.e., aces and eights, that's how you say it, is a raid exclusive gear set, but they want to make this stuff widely available, but they don't want to make it so that you don't go into the raid to get this stuff. So what they're doing is that they're making the backpack and the chest piece exclusive to the raid, and then all the other stuff, knee pads, all of that stuff will drop outside of the raid, meaning if you do want the backpack and if you do want the chest piece, which are going to be the most powerful pieces of that gear set because they're going to have talents on them, you have to go in the raid to get them. So let me know what you guys think about that. They also went on to talk about adding gear sets to the general loot pool, which I think I've stated before. My concern with that was adding more stuff to the loot pool doesn't actually fix the RNG issue, but we're going to get onto that. Okay, so leading up to the new loot feature, they confirm, loot pools are big and there's going to be more stuff in them now, from what we've just talked about. And it's hard to focus on something. There's nothing in the game that allows you to focus. So the new system will allow you, by choice, to narrow these loot pools. So what they're going to be doing, and this is a huge change, guys, so all main missions and name zones are going to have certain loot in them for a certain period of time. Gear slots, gear brands, mods, and they are considering gear sets as well. They're going to be distributed across all missions and name zones, and they're going to be there for a particular period of time. They said it's going to be on a daily basis. Now, the best way of me showing this, guys, is they did show it in the state of the game, is for me just to insert this video here. It's a work in progress, but this will confirm, or basically display to you, how it's going to look.
Sense for you. So you can see the show targeted loot down in the bottom right. We press that, and then we come up to this view. That's pretty cool. I did ask you this before, and you actually mentioned it earlier in the stream. Mm-hmm. You're not going to have a situation where there are more loot pools than there are zones, right? So there will be some. If you're looking for something, it will be on the map somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we have more missions and name zones than there are small.
So as you can see, each name zone has a particular piece of gear or weapon or whatever it is, and then each mission has a particular gear or weapon or whatever. It's important for me to note that main missions and name zones are separate. So say, for example, you've got LMG in a certain name zone, but then you've got a mission in that name zone. That mission might have something different to LMG. So I hope that makes sense. They're separate. They're not all together. They confirm that main missions they're going to guarantee drops from bosses. As you probably noted from the video, it just says like increased chance, which is true. The chances are increased from NPC drops and opening chests and all that stuff. But you are going to get guaranteed drops for that particular item that you're going for from bosses as well. And that's the same for name zones. The bosses will guarantee drops, as well as activity completion is another guaranteed source. So if you save someone and you get that little thing that says you've completed an activity, that will guarantee a particular drop that you've gone for, essentially, because you know what you're going for because it's displayed in the UI. Now, the entire system is going to be on top of the general distribution and loot. It's not replacing it. So they're going to be making changes overall to drop chances. They're going to be scaling the drop chances down so that we still get the same amount of loot, but it's going to be more targeted, which again is this is absolutely fantastic news. This is the biggest news, or the biggest change that I could have ever asked for. Having targeted loot like this is very, very important, and I am absolutely stoked with that news. They did confirm there's never going to be a situation where there's not enough zones for loot pools. There's actually more zones and missions than there are loot pools, so there'll never be a situation where you can't get what you want, essentially. So yeah, just crazy news here. They confirmed that dark zones will be treated as name zones, but obviously when the gear drops in there, it's still going to be contaminated. They did confirm that the main stuff coming with the dark zone and PvP will be talked about in next week's State of the Game, so we'll leave that there. Now they went and moved on and they talked about recalibration. They confirmed that the new UI is incoming. They confirmed that the new UI will be where you go to the recal, you pick an item, you pick what you want to recal, and then you'll get a list of what you can put on there, which you will be able to, it'll tell you what gear will destroy. They'll be telling you, these are all the different things that you can put on there, and it'll tell you the gear that you destroy. Obviously, that's the opposite way it is now, and they think that for that, it's a better overview of what is available rather than going through each piece of gear and trying to find what you want. It'll just tell you what can be available, which I think is a good quality of life change. Massive change to Recal. They're going to allow you to swap stats from different color types. Now this is something I wasn't too sure if they were going to implement, but this is a massive change. This means that the meta, or not meta, but the overall build diversity will be out of this world, because you can imagine if you want to fully spec into DPS, then you just take off all those blues and you take off all those yellows and you just whack on red everywhere. You're going to be just DPS all over the place, essentially. So this is a huge change. I don't know whether it's going to break the game in respect to balance, but obviously they're having a PTS for that reason, but that is a huge change. They're also looking into a change where you can change the type of mod slots as well on particular pieces, but they've got no decision on that. And that's kind of where they left it with Recal. And I've got to be honest, guys, all of this stuff is positive, but I'm a little bit gutted that they didn't say that you're going to be able to swap 2 talents, or 1 attribute, 1 talent, or 2 attributes. It's still going to just be the one from right now, and I really hope that they still change that, because there's still time. Nothing is confirmed at this point. There's still time for that to happen, and that's not happened. And I've got to admit, that was probably the biggest thing that people were talking about. Very surprised that they never talked about that in today's State of the Game. So hopefully that does get implemented at some point. Now moving on, they want to talk about crafting. There's some big changes coming to crafting, guys. They're going to be raising the material cap. They didn't say what it was going to be yet. They're not sure, but that's going to be going up, which is great. They're going to be introducing or reintroducing the material sharing perk, which I believe was part of a previous PTS, and it just means that if you want this, you can share materials across multiple characters. They're going to be increasing the mats or materials from NPC drops as well, and they also, when you are full on mats as well, when you are full at the moment, then they're going to stop dropping the mats altogether. At the moment, they just drop and you can't pick them up, and they just leave this grey thing that's saying, kind of teasing you, haha, you didn't get the mat that you wanted, but that won't happen. They just will stop dropping that mat altogether. They went on to talk about scavenging improvements on materials. You've probably seen all the videos where this is the best run to get the best materials from these crates. Well, what they want to do is they want to change that, kind of. So at the moment, when you go out and you farm materials, you don't actually know what you're going to drop depending on what crate you open. It just drops whatever. Well, from now on, what they're going to do is they're going to drop both mats from whatever box you open, not just one, meaning that you'll always, if you're looking for a particular material, it will always drop if you open up a particular crate or whatever. So that's, again, a really good change. They're going to be adding a chance of getting polycarbonate from deconstruction, because I think polycarbonate is probably the hardest thing to get. So that, again, that's going to be added as something that you might be able to get as well. The cost of crafting is going to be reduced. They didn't say by how much, but it's going to be lowered quite a bit for greys and for brand materials. And they moved on to talk about blueprints, and at the moment you'll go onto your blueprints and it'll say 215 out of 222, but you have no idea. You think you've done everything, but you have no idea where those other blueprints are. They confirmed in a previous State of the Game that they were just going to put out a list, but essentially what they're going to be doing with the crafting bench is they're going to be having a UI change which will show you where those missing blueprints are and how you go about acquiring them. And that's it. That is it so far, guys, for the loot and general changes. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. For me personally, some of these changes are absolutely fantastic. The loot change, where you can target loot, is a game changer. The fact that you'll be able to swap stats from different color types is a game changer. This stuff is just all the stuff I wanted to hear. And when I was watching State of the Game, I was concerned that the loot pool was just going to be going up and up and up, and you know, there was going to be more stuff, and it was the RNG was going to be even worse until I found out about the targeted stuff. And I just think that's a great change. If I had one thing that I had to say negative, and that's only because everyone has talked about this, so I'm surprised they never mentioned it, is that they haven't confirmed, or certainly at the moment they're not considering changing Recal so that we can swap out 2 of something. You know, 2 talents or 2 attributes, or 1 talent and 1 attribute. And I think that if they'd have added that, this would have been perfect state of the game for me. But they didn't. So this is a great state of the game, but not perfect. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, please drop a like. If you watched until the end, you don't understand how much this impacts me and how well this impacts the video and how much it gets the video out of there. So I really, really appreciate all of that support. And until the next one, guys, Epic out.